My name is Greg Foster, and I'm about to tell you how my wife's declaration of emotional bankruptcy turned into the most expensive mistake of her life. It was a Tuesday night in March when Melissa looked me dead in the eye over her quinoa salad and said, "I like you, Greg, but I'm not in love with you anymore." She delivered this news with the same tone she'd used to announce we were out of milk. Her therapist had probably coached her on the phrasing. Be honest, but gentle, Melissa. Use I statements. I set down my beer, a Budweiser, because apparently my taste in everything was beneath her now, and nodded. Thanks for the clarity. That was it. No tears, no pleading, no dramatic music swelling in the background. Just two people acknowledging that 17 years of marriage had officially flatlined. From that moment, I treated her exactly like what she'd made herself, a roommate. No good morning kisses, no how was your day texts, no anniversary gifts. I became politely neutral, like a customer service representative who'd mastered the art of professional indifference. The silence grew louder than her words ever had. 3 weeks later, she was panicking. "You're being so distant," she complained, following me around our split-level house in suburban Cleveland like a lost puppy. I didn't mean we had to stop talking. "We're talking now," I replied, not looking up from my laptop where I was troubleshooting a network issue for my IT consulting business. "You said you weren't in love with me." "I'm respecting your feelings." Melissa Foster, née Williams, though she'd probably go back to that soon enough, was 38 years old and worked as a social media manager for a boutique marketing firm downtown. She had shoulder-length blonde hair that cost more to maintain than my monthly car payment, and she'd recently developed an obsession with CrossFit that had transformed her body into something she photographed more than she used. We had 2 kids, Chloe, 16 and sharp as her mother's tongue when she wanted to be, and Lucas, 13 and awkward in that way that reminded me of myself at his age. Lucas still thought I hung the moon. Chloe had started treating me like furniture around the time she turned 15, probably picking up on her mother's growing dissatisfaction. The house we lived in was a 3-bedroom ranch in Lakewood, close enough to downtown Cleveland to feel connected, but far enough out to afford a yard where Lucas could practice skateboarding tricks that gave me minor heart attacks. I'd bought it 8 years ago when business was good, and we still pretended to be happy. My friend Doug Martinez had warned me this was coming. Doug owned a small auto repair shop and had been divorced twice, which made him something of an expert on marital failure. "She's getting restless," he'd told me 6 months earlier over beers at Murphy's Tavern. I've seen that look before. "She's shopping for an upgrade." I should have listened. The first real sign came when Melissa started going to girls' nights 3 times a week. Her friend Tara Brennan, a divorce attorney who collected failed marriages like trophies, had suddenly become her best confidant. Tara was the type of woman who wore her cynicism like expensive perfume, too much of it, and it made everyone around her uncomfortable. "You're so lucky to have options," I overheard Tara telling Melissa at our kitchen counter one evening. They thought I was in the garage, but sound carries in these old houses. Some of us settled too early, you know. I wasn't sure if she was talking about Melissa or herself, but the message was clear. I was the settlement, not the prize. Then there was Brianna Walsh, Melissa's frenemy from college, who'd moved back to Cleveland the previous year. Bree had the kind of smile that looked supportive but felt predatory. She worked in real estate and had opinions about everyone's life choices, especially mine. "Greg's sweet," she'd say with that practiced real estate agent tone, "but don't you want more excitement?" "You're still young, Mel." The irony was that I'd built a decent life for us. My IT consulting business brought in solid money, not rich, but comfortable. We took vacations, the kids had college funds, and Melissa drove a Honda Pilot that was only 2 years old. But comfortable wasn't Instagram-worthy, and Melissa had become addicted to the validation of strangers double-tapping her carefully curated life. Everything changed the day I discovered Andre Voss. I was fixing Melissa's laptop, She'd somehow managed to install 17 different browser toolbars and couldn't figure out why everything was running slowly when a Facebook Messenger notification popped up. "Your husband's a joke," it read. The sender was listed as Andre Fee. My finger hovered over the touchpad. I could close the notification and pretend I'd never seen it. I could confront Melissa directly. Or I could do what any self-respecting IT professional would do: investigate. Andre Voss, as it turned out, was 35 years old and owned a gym called Muscle Mansion on the West Side. His profile picture showed him shirtless, flexing in what appeared to be a professional photo shoot. He drove a yellow Mustang convertible and posted motivational quotes about grinding and getting what you deserve with the frequency of a multi-level marketing bot. He was also married to a woman named Patricia, had 2 kids under 10, and apparently had enough time between sets to seduce other men's wives via social media. The messages between him and Melissa went back 4 months. They started innocuously enough: comments on her workout posts, encouragement about her fitness journey. But they'd evolved into something that made my stomach turn. "Can't wait to see you tonight," read one from the previous week. "Wear the black set." Attached was a photo of Melissa in lingerie I'd never seen, taken in what looked like an office with gym equipment visible in the background. At least her abs looked better. Guess Andre's squats worked wonders for more than just muscle tone. I sat in our bedroom, staring at the evidence of my marriage's final collapse, and felt something cold settle in my chest. Not heartbreak. That had happened weeks ago when she'd made her announcement. This was something else, something calculating. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Check your email." You didn't hear this from me. The email contained a video file. The timestamp showed it was from 3 days ago, when Melissa had claimed to be at a yoga retreat with Tara. The location was definitely not a yoga studio. The Riverside Motel was the kind of place that rented rooms by the hour and didn't ask questions about license plates. In the grainy security footage, I watched my wife of 17 years walk into room 237 with Andre Voss, her gym bag slung over her shoulder like she was heading to an actual workout. They emerged 2 hours later. Melissa was glowing in that way that used to be reserved for me, back when we still pretended to be in love. I forwarded the video to a secure folder and deleted the email. Then I poured myself a whiskey, Jameson, not the cheap stuff, and started planning. If Melissa wanted to be honest about her feelings, I could be honest too. And my feelings were telling me that 17 years of marriage deserved a better ending than a quiet divorce and a 50-50 split of assets. She wanted excitement? I was about to give her more excitement than she could handle. The next morning, Melissa bounced into the kitchen wearing yoga pants and a sports bra, her hair pulled back in a ponytail that made her look younger than her years. "I'm thinking of signing up for that half marathon in the fall," she announced, pouring herself a green smoothie that probably cost more than my lunch. "Andre thinks I have the potential to really excel at distance running." "Andre?" I kept my voice neutral, buttering my toast with the same methodical precision I used to configure network servers. "My trainer at the gym." "He's really motivating. Very hands-on approach. I bet he was." "That's great, honey. You should definitely pursue your passions." She looked surprised by my supportive tone. For a moment, something that might have been guilt flickered across her face. "You don't mind?" "The training schedule is pretty intense. I'd be gone most evenings." "I want you to be happy," I said, and meant it. Her happiness was about to become very expensive, but she'd earned every penny of the cost. Lucas wandered into the kitchen, his hair sticking up at angles that defied physics. At 13, he was all elbows and knees, growing so fast his jeans looked like capri pants within weeks of buying them. "Dad, can you help me with my computer science homework?" he asked, grabbing a Pop-Tart from the counter. "Sure thing, buddy. What are you working on?" "We're learning about data recovery. How to find files that people think they've deleted." Melissa's smoothie glass paused halfway to her lips. "That sounds complicated," she said. Not really, Lucas replied with the confidence of youth. Dad says nothing ever really disappears from computers. It's all still there if you know where to look. Your dad's very smart about computers, Melissa said, her voice tight. The smartest, Lucas agreed, grinning at me with the kind of hero worship that made my chest ache. He had no idea his world was about to change. Chloe finally appeared, moving through the kitchen like a ghost in black jeans and an oversized hoodie. She'd inherited her mother's looks, but thankfully not her need for constant validation. At 16, she was already more self-aware than most adults I knew. You guys are being weird, she announced, grabbing a yogurt from the fridge. How so? I asked. Mom's being fake nice and Dad's being real nice. It's creepy. She studied us with the analytical gaze of someone who'd grown up watching her parents' marriage slowly dissolve. Are you getting divorced? The question hung in the air like smoke from a grease fire. Don't be dramatic, Chloe, Melissa said quickly. Your father and I are fine. We're working through some things, I added, which was technically true. I was working through the most comprehensive revenge plan of my adult life. Chloe shrugged and headed toward the door. Whatever, just don't make it weird for Lucas. He still believes in happy endings. After the kids left for school, Melissa and I stood in our kitchen like strangers waiting for a bus. I should go, she said finally. Early meeting with a client. Have a good day, I replied, already turning back to my laptop. She hesitated at the doorway. Greg, are we okay? I looked up from my screen, meeting her eyes with the same professional courtesy I'd show a client asking about their invoice. We're exactly what you said we were, Melissa. We like each other. That's enough, isn't it? She left without answering, but I heard her car sit in the driveway for a full 5 minutes before she finally drove away. That afternoon, I received another anonymous message. This time, it was a screenshot of a post in a private Facebook group called Lakewood Moms United. The post was from Tara Brennan. Ladies, asking for a friend. If you had a chance to upgrade your life situation, but it meant disappointing people who depend on you, would you take it? Asking for someone who's been settling for comfortable instead of pursuing happiness. The comments were a mix of supportive platitudes and thinly veiled gossip. But one stood out. Tell your friend that life's too short to stay with someone who doesn't appreciate her. She deserves a man who makes her feel alive again. Brianna Walsh. I screenshotted the post and added it to my growing collection of evidence. Then I did something I hadn't done in months. I smiled. The beauty of working in IT is that people assume you're socially awkward and technologically obsessed, which makes them underestimate your ability to understand human nature. They're wrong on both counts, but I've never bothered correcting the misconception. Over the next 2 weeks, I watched Melissa's double life unfold with the detached fascination of a documentary filmmaker. She'd developed an entire vocabulary of deception, client dinners that happened at the Riverside Motel, gym sessions that lasted 4 hours, and girls' nights where Tara was supposedly always too busy to text me back when I asked how Melissa was doing. The most insulting part wasn't the lying, it was how bad she was at it. I'll be late tonight, she announced on a Thursday morning, not looking up from her phone. Big presentation tomorrow, so the team's working late. On a Thursday night? I asked mildly. It's a Friday presentation. You know how these corporate clients are. Everything's urgent until it's not. I nodded sympathetically, while mentally noting that her company's website clearly stated they didn't work with corporate clients. They specialized in small businesses and local restaurants, but pointing that out would have ruined the fun. Instead, I spent Thursday evening teaching Lucas how to set up a secure home network, while Melissa was presumably learning new workout techniques from Andre. Lucas had inherited my logical mind and my stubborn streak, which made him an excellent student and a dangerous opponent in any argument. Dad, why do people think they can hide things on the internet? He asked, configuring firewall settings with the intensity of a surgeon. Because they don't understand that privacy is an illusion, I replied. Everything leaves a trail if you know how to follow it. Even deleted stuff? Especially deleted stuff. Deletion is just a computer's way of saying, I'll deal with this later. The data's still there until something overwrites it. He absorbed this information with the same serious expression he'd worn as a toddler learning to tie his shoes. Lucas approached everything like it was a puzzle worth solving. Could someone track where Mom goes when she says she's working late? The question caught me off guard. I looked at my son, really looked at him, and saw intelligence that was both inherited and earned. He'd been paying attention. Hypothetically, if someone wanted to track a phone's location, there are apps for that. Family safety apps, mostly. Parents use them to make sure their kids are safe. But you could use them the other way around? You could, I agreed carefully. But that would be a violation of trust. Lucas considered this. What if the trust was already broken? Smart kid. Too smart for his own good. Then you'd have bigger problems than location tracking, I said. That night, after Lucas went to bed, I installed a family safety app on our shared phone plan. It took exactly 3 minutes to set up, and it would send me location updates for all the phones on our account. Melissa had agreed to the app months ago when Chloe started driving, ostensibly to track the kids for safety reasons. She'd forgotten that her phone was on the same plan. Friday evening brought the first real test. Melissa announced she was going to girls' night at a new wine bar downtown. Tara was picking her up at 7. At 7:15, my phone pinged with a location update. Melissa's phone was at the Riverside Motel. At 7:17, I called Tara's office. Brennan Law, this is Tara. Hey Tara, it's Greg Foster. Is Melissa with you yet? She forgot her allergy medication. There was a pause that lasted exactly long enough for me to know I'd caught her in the lie. Oh, she's running late. We're meeting at 8 now. I can tell her to call you? No worries. She'll be fine for one night. Have fun at the wine bar. Another pause. Right, the wine bar. Thanks, Greg. I hung up and poured myself a whiskey. Tara was a better lawyer than she was a liar, which probably explained why her divorce practice was struggling. The location app showed Melissa's phone staying at the motel until 10:30 p.m. She walked through our front door at 11:15, slightly disheveled and smelling like she'd doused herself in perfume to cover other scents. How was girls' night? I asked from the couch, where I'd been reading a book about network security. Great! We went to this new place downtown, very trendy. She was talking too fast, the way people do when they're trying to convince themselves as much as their audience. Tara had too much wine, so I had to drive her home. That's why I'm so late. That was nice of you. What was the name of the place? Maybe we should try it sometime. Her face went blank for just a moment. Oh, it's called Vintages. Very small, you probably haven't heard of it. I made a mental note to check if a wine bar called Vintages existed in Cleveland. I was betting it didn't. Sounds lovely. I'm glad you had fun. She kissed my forehead, a gesture so automatic and meaningless it felt like being blessed by a politician, and headed upstairs to shower. The shower ran for 25 minutes, which was about 15 minutes longer than usual. Saturday morning brought an unexpected visitor. Brianna Walsh appeared at our front door at 9 a.m., carrying coffee from the expensive place downtown and wearing the kind of smile that made me think of sharks. Morning, Greg. Is Melissa around? We're supposed to go shopping. She's still sleeping, I said, accepting the coffee she offered. Late night out with Tara. Oh, right. Girls' night. I heard it was quite the adventure. Her eyes sparkled with the kind of malicious glee that made me wonder what she knew and how she knew it. Adventure? You know how Tara gets when she drinks. Always leads to interesting stories. I sipped the coffee. It was good, expensive, and studied Bree's face. She was fishing for information, but I couldn't tell if she was trying to protect Melissa or expose her. Well, Melissa seemed to enjoy herself. That's what matters. Absolutely. Life's too short not to pursue happiness, right? There it was. the same phrase from her Facebook comment. Bree wasn't just enabling Melissa's affair, she was actively encouraging it. I couldn't agree more, I said, meeting her gaze directly. People should definitely get what they deserve. Something flickered in her expression, surprise maybe, or recognition that I wasn't as oblivious as she'd assumed. Melissa appeared at the top of the stairs, wearing yoga pants and one of my old college t-shirts. Even disheveled and makeup-free, she was beautiful in that effortless way that had first attracted me 20 years ago. For a moment, I remembered what it felt like to be in love with her. Then she smiled at Bree with genuine warmth, more warmth than she'd shown me in months, and the moment passed. "You're early!" Melissa called down, already heading back toward the bedroom. "Give me 10 minutes to get ready." "Take your time," Bree called back, then turned to me with that shark smile again. "She's glowing lately." Whatever she's doing is working for her. She's been working out a lot. New trainer at the gym. Andre, right? I've heard great things about him. Very hands-on approach. The way she said it made my skin crawl. Bree knew exactly what was happening, and she was enjoying my discomfort. "So, I've heard," I replied evenly. Melissa reappeared 15 minutes later, transformed by makeup and styling into the woman who posed for Instagram photos. She kissed my cheek, another meaningless gesture, and headed for the door with Bree. "Don't wait up," she called over her shoulder. "We might make a whole day of it." After they left, I sat in my kitchen and made a decision that would change everything. I opened my laptop and began typing an email to Doug Martinez. "Need to talk. Can you come over this afternoon? Bring beer and your cynical worldview? I've got a story to tell you." Doug arrived at 3 p.m. with a 12-pack of Budweiser and the kind of expression that meant he already knew this conversation wasn't going to be pleasant. "She's cheating," he said, before he'd even sat down. It wasn't a question. "How did you know?" "Because you only drink whiskey at 3 p.m. when your world's falling apart, and the last time that happened was when your dad died." He cracked open a beer and settled into the kitchen chair that had somehow become his designated spot over the years. Plus, Melissa's been posting gym selfies like she's training for the Olympics. Women don't suddenly develop fitness obsessions unless they're trying to impress someone new. I told him everything. The messages, the motel video, the location tracking, the elaborate lies. Doug listened without interruption, occasionally nodding or making small sounds of disgust. "Andre Voss," he said when I finished. "I know that guy. He's been through half the divorced women in Cleveland. Real piece of work. You know him? His wife Patricia brought her car to my shop last month. Transmission problems. She mentioned her husband was a trainer, and when she said the name, I remembered hearing stories." Doug took a long pull from his beer. "Word is he's got a system. Targets married women who are unhappy, makes them feel special, gets them to leave their husbands. Then he moves on to the next one. What happened to Patricia? Still married to him, far as I know. Either she doesn't know, or she's pretending not to know. Some women choose willful blindness over difficult truths." I thought about that while we sat in silence. Outside, I could hear Lucas practicing skateboard tricks in the driveway, the sound of wheels on concrete providing a steady rhythm to our conversation. "So what's the plan?" Doug asked finally. "What makes you think I have a plan?" He laughed, but there wasn't much humor in it. "Because you're not crying, you're not drunk, and you're not planning to confront her directly. That means you're plotting. And when Greg Foster plots, people usually end up regretting whatever they did to piss him off." He wasn't wrong. In high school, I'd been the kid who'd gotten revenge on bullies by hacking their social media accounts and posting embarrassing photos. In college, I'd exposed a professor who was selling grades by anonymously sending evidence to the dean. I'd always believed that the best revenge was the kind that looked like natural consequences. "I'm thinking about it," I admitted. "Good. She's got it coming, but be smart about it. Don't do anything that'll hurt the kids or land you in jail." "I'm not planning to hurt anyone." I just want the truth to come out in the most public, embarrassing way possible. Doug grinned, the first genuine smile I'd seen from him all day. Now you're talking. What do you need from me? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with another anonymous message. This one contained a single photo. Melissa and Andre in the parking lot of Muscle Mansion, locked in an embrace that left no doubt about the nature of their relationship. The timestamp showed it had been taken 20 minutes ago. Change of plans, I said, showing Doug the photo. I think it's time to accelerate the timeline. Sunday morning brought clarity in the form of a neighborhood barbecue at the Hendersons' house 3 doors down. These gatherings were usually torture, forced socialization with people whose biggest concerns involved property values and school district ratings. But today, I saw opportunity. Melissa spent an hour getting ready, which was unusual for a casual neighborhood event. She chose a sundress that showed off her newly toned arms and took approximately 47 selfies before settling on the one that captured her natural smile. "You look great," I told her, and meant it. She did look great. She also looked like a woman trying very hard to impress someone who wasn't her husband. "Thanks," she replied, surprised by the genuine compliment. "You clean up pretty well yourself." I'd chosen my outfit carefully, khakis and a polo shirt that made me look like exactly what I was, a suburban dad who worked in IT and coached Little League on weekends. Harmless, forgettable. The kind of man other men underestimated. The Hendersons' backyard was already crowded when we arrived. Kids ran around the pool while adults clustered in groups, nursing beers and pretending to care about each other's vacation plans. I spotted Tara immediately. She was holding court near the grill, gesturing dramatically with a wine glass that was already half empty despite the early hour. "Greg! Melissa!" Tom Henderson waved us over, his enthusiasm powered by the kind of aggressive friendliness that came from selling insurance for a living. "Glad you could make it. Burgers are almost ready." I accepted a beer and began working the crowd, something I'd learned to do effectively over the years. People liked talking to me because I asked good questions and actually listened to the answers. It was a skill that served me well in business and, apparently, in intelligence gathering. "How's the gym business, Andre?" I heard someone ask. I turned to see Andre Voss himself, standing near the pool in board shorts and a tank top that showed off the physique he'd probably spent more time developing than his business plan. He was exactly what I'd expected, handsome in an obvious way, confident to the point of arrogance, and completely unaware that the husband of his latest conquest was standing 15 feet away. "Can't complain," Andre replied, his voice carrying the kind of casual authority that impressed people who confused volume with competence. "Business is booming. A lot of people finally taking their health seriously." "I bet you get a lot of bored housewives," joked Mike Chen, one of the neighbors whose own marriage had survived 3 affairs and a bankruptcy. "Must be nice work if you can get it." Andre's laugh was just a little too loud. I help people transform their lives. Sometimes that means more than just physical fitness. I filed that comment away for future use and continued circulating. Near the kitchen window, I found exactly what I was looking for. Melissa and Tara, deep in conversation and well into their 3rd glasses of wine. "He's here," Melissa was saying, her voice pitched low but not low enough. "I didn't expect him to come." "Relax," Tara replied. "It's a neighborhood party. He probably doesn't even know who you are. But what if Greg figures it out?" "Greg's clueless. Trust me, I've seen this 1,000 times in my practice. Husbands are always the last to know." I moved closer, pretending to examine Tom's impressive collection of grilling tools. "I just feel so guilty sometimes," Melissa continued. "The kids, the house, everything we've built together." "Guilt is just fear wearing a disguise," Tara said, with the confidence of someone who'd read too many self-help books. "You deserve to be happy, Mel. You've given Greg 17 years. How much more of your life are you supposed to sacrifice?" "You're right. I know you're right. It's just hard. The best things always are. But look at you. You're glowing. You're in the best shape of your life. You're finally living instead of just existing. That's worth fighting for. I'd heard enough. I wandered back toward the pool, where Andre was now entertaining a small group with stories about his training philosophy. He had the kind of charisma that worked on people who didn't look too closely, but I could see the calculation behind his smile. The key is finding what motivates each individual client, he was saying. Some people need encouragement, others need challenge. The best trainers know how to give people exactly what they're missing in their lives. Sounds like you're part fitness coach, part therapist, observed Janet Walsh, Bree's mother, and a retired school principal with a bullshit detector that had been finely tuned by 30 years of dealing with teenagers. Something like that, Andre agreed. I help people discover their potential. Sometimes that means pushing them out of their comfort zones. I was sure it did. The afternoon progressed with the kind of predictable rhythm that made suburban gatherings both comforting and mind-numbing. Kids splashed in the pool, adults complained about lawn care and property taxes, and everyone pretended that their lives were exactly as fulfilling as their social media posts suggested. But I was watching for something specific, and around 4 p.m., I found it. Melissa had been stealing glances at Andre all afternoon, and he'd been returning them with the kind of subtle intensity that probably made her feel like the only woman in the world. It was a well-practiced dance, and they were both good at it. The moment came when Melissa went inside to use the bathroom. Andre waited exactly 30 seconds, then followed her into the house. They were gone for 12 minutes. When they returned, Melissa's lipstick had been reapplied, and Andre had the satisfied expression of a man who'd just confirmed his power over someone else's wife. They didn't speak to each other for the rest of the party, but they didn't need to. The damage was done. More importantly, I wasn't the only one who'd noticed. Janet Walsh had been watching too, and her expression suggested she'd drawn the same conclusions I had. Bree appeared at her mother's elbow, and they exchanged the kind of meaningful look that passed between women who'd lived long enough to recognize patterns. "Interesting party," I said, approaching them with my most innocent smile. "Very interesting," Janet replied, her tone carefully neutral. "Always fascinating to watch people interact. Especially when they think no one's paying attention," Bree added. But she was looking at me instead of toward the house where her friend had just compromised herself. I spent the rest of the party being the perfect husband, attentive to Melissa, friendly to the neighbors, completely oblivious to any undercurrents of drama. When we finally headed home around 6 p.m., Melissa was relaxed and happy in a way I hadn't seen in months. "That was fun," she said, linking her arm through mine as we walked across the street. "I'm glad we went." "Me too. Nice to see the neighbors." That trainer guy seemed popular with the ladies. She tensed slightly. "Andre? I guess. I didn't really notice. He's got quite the business philosophy. Very hands-on approach, from what I could tell." She replied non-committally, but I could feel her pulling away even as we walked arm in arm. That evening, after the kids went to bed, I made my first real move. I opened Facebook and navigated to the Lakewood Moms United group that Tara had posted in previously. It was a private group, but I'd created a fake profile months earlier, ostensibly for a female client who needed help managing her business's social media presence. The profile had enough history and connections to look legitimate, and the group administrators had approved my request to join without question. I scrolled through recent posts until I found what I was looking for. Photos from the Hendersons' barbecue, posted by Tom's wife, Sarah. She'd taken dozens of pictures throughout the afternoon, capturing the kind of candid moments that people love to share online. Most of the photos were harmless. Kids playing, adults laughing, the usual documentation of suburban life. But buried in the middle of the album was a shot that told a different story. It showed the Hendersons' kitchen through the sliding glass door, taken while Sarah was apparently trying to photograph the food spread on the counter. But in the background, barely visible through the doorway leading to the hallway, Two figures could be seen in what was clearly an intimate embrace. The image quality wasn't perfect, but it was good enough. Anyone who knew Melissa and had seen Andre at the party would be able to connect the dots. I downloaded the photo and opened it in Photoshop. With some careful cropping and contrast adjustment, I could make the background figures more visible without making it obvious that the image had been manipulated. The result looked like an accidental capture, the kind of embarrassing moment that happened when people forgot cameras were everywhere. Then I created a new anonymous email account and composed a message to Patricia Voss. "I thought you should know," I wrote. "This was taken at a neighborhood party yesterday. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you, but I'd want someone to tell me." I attached the enhanced photo and hit send. Then I sat back and waited for the dominoes to start falling. I didn't have to wait long. Monday morning brought the first crack in Andre's carefully constructed world. Doug called me at 8 a.m., his voice tight with barely contained laughter. "You need to get down to Muscle Mansion," he said. "Patricia Voss is there with a baseball bat and a very loud voice." "What's she saying?" "Everything. Names, dates, locations. Apparently your boy Andre has been running a one-man escort service out of his gym and she's got receipts. Literally, she found credit card statements for the motel. I could hear shouting in the background along with what sounded like equipment being thrown around. Is anyone filming this? Half the neighborhood's here with their phones out. This is going to be all over social media by lunch." I hung up and immediately checked the Lakewood Moms United Facebook group. Sure enough, 3 different people had already posted videos of Patricia's very public breakdown. The comments were pouring in faster than I could read them, but the general consensus was clear. Andre Voss was a predator, and everyone was shocked to discover that the handsome trainer had been seducing his clients. Well, almost everyone was shocked. "Oh my God, did you see what happened at that gym?" Melissa burst into the kitchen, her phone in her hand and her face pale. Some woman went crazy and started destroying the place. "What gym?" I asked, not looking up from my coffee. "Muscle Mansion, the one where I've been thinking about getting a membership. That's terrible. What happened?" "The owner's wife found out he was cheating. She's accusing him of sleeping with clients." Melissa's voice was getting higher with each word. "It's all over Facebook. People are saying he's been doing this for years." Wow. That's awful for everyone involved. I finally looked up, meeting her eyes with what I hoped was the appropriate level of concern. "Good thing you hadn't signed up yet." "Sounds like a mess." She nodded quickly, but I could see the panic building behind her eyes. If Patricia knew about the clients, it was only a matter of time before specific names started coming out. "I think I need to lie down," Melissa said. "I'm getting a headache." She disappeared upstairs, and I heard the bedroom door close. A few minutes later, I heard her talking on the phone in the urgent, whispered tone that meant she was trying to do damage control. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Check your email." The email contained a screenshot of a text conversation between Melissa and Andre from that morning. "Melissa, did you see what happened?" "She knows everything." "Andre, stay calm. She doesn't have proof of anything specific." "Melissa, what if she has photos? What if someone saw us yesterday?" "Andre, no one saw anything. Just lay low for a few days until this blows over." "Melissa, I can't do this anymore. This is too risky." "Andre, don't panic on me now. We've been careful. There's no way this comes back to you." He was wrong about that, but I appreciated his confidence. The anonymous messenger was becoming a valuable asset, though I still couldn't figure out who was sending me information or why. My best guess was Bry. She had access to Melissa's social circle and enough technical knowledge to create burner accounts, but her motivations remained unclear. Tuesday brought the next phase of the collapse. Patricia Voss had apparently spent Monday night going through Andre's phone and computer, and she'd found enough evidence to sink a fleet. By Tuesday morning, she'd posted a comprehensive exposé on every local Facebook group, complete with screenshots of conversations between Andre and at least 6 different women. Melissa's name wasn't on the list, but her gym selfies and workout posts had suddenly disappeared from her Instagram account. "I'm thinking of taking a break from social media," she announced at breakfast, not meeting my eyes. "All this negativity is bad for mental health." "Probably wise," I agreed. "People can be pretty judgmental about things they don't understand." She looked at me sharply, but I was already turning back to my laptop, where I was pretending to work on a client's network security assessment. The truth was, I was planning the next phase of my campaign. Wednesday evening brought the confrontation I'd been waiting for. Andre Voss appeared at my front door at 7 p.m., wearing jeans and a t-shirt instead of his usual gym attire. His confidence had taken a hit, but he was still carrying himself like a man who believed he could charm his way out of trouble. "Greg Foster?" he asked, though he clearly already knew the answer. "That's me. What can I do for you?" "I think we need to talk. About your wife." I stepped onto the front porch and closed the door behind me. No need for the kids to hear this conversation. "What about her?" "Look, I know this is awkward, but there's been a misunderstanding. My wife is going through some mental health issues, and she's making accusations that aren't true. I'm worried that innocent people might get caught up in her delusions. He was good. I had to give him that." The concerned, reasonable tone was perfectly calibrated to make me feel like we were two rational men dealing with a hysterical woman's fantasies. "That sounds difficult for your family," I said neutrally. "It is. And I'd hate for good people like you and Melissa to get dragged into something that has nothing to do with you." He paused, studying my face for any sign of suspicion. "Patricia's been claiming that I had inappropriate relationships with clients, which is completely false. But she's been naming names, and I'm worried she might mention Melissa just because she's been training at the gym." "Melissa's never mentioned training at your gym." His smile faltered slightly. "Right. Well, she might have visited once or twice. I just wanted to give you a heads up in case Patricia contacts you. She's not well right now." I nodded thoughtfully, as if I were processing this information for the first time. "I appreciate you coming by. It shows integrity." "I try to do the right thing," he replied, his confidence returning. "I know how these situations can get blown out of proportion, and I didn't want there to be any confusion." "No confusion here," I said, extending my hand for a shake. "Thanks for clearing that up." He shook my hand, his grip firm and his smile genuine. He actually thought he'd handled the situation. As he walked back to his yellow Mustang, I pulled out my phone and sent a quick text to Doug. Phase 2 is go. Thursday morning, Andre Voss woke up to find his car decorated with something special. Doug had used his automotive expertise to create a custom air freshener system, one that would fill the Mustang's interior with the scent of rotten eggs every time Andre turned on the air conditioning. He'd also added a glitter bomb to the glove compartment, rigged to explode the next time it was opened. But the real masterpiece was the bumper sticker Doug had applied to the rear window. "Ask me about my affair success rate," in bright pink letters that would require professional removal. Andre discovered all of this in the gym parking lot, surrounded by his remaining clients and several people who'd come specifically to watch his public humiliation. Someone filmed his reaction and posted it to the Cheaters of Cleveland Facebook group, where it received over 1,000 shares in the first hour. The comments were brutal and creative in ways that reminded me why I love the internet. By Thursday afternoon, Andre's gym was effectively finished. His remaining clients had canceled their memberships, his wife had filed for divorce, and someone had spray-painted "Home Wrecker" across his front window in letters large enough to be seen from the street. But I wasn't done yet. Friday brought the pièce de résistance, a carefully orchestrated social media campaign that I'd been planning for weeks. Using a network of fake accounts I'd created over the previous month, I began sharing Patricia Voss's exposé across every local Facebook group, neighborhood app, and community forum in the greater Cleveland area. But I didn't just share it, I enhanced it. I created infographics showing Andre's pattern of behavior, timelines of his various affairs, and a map of all the locations where he'd been spotted with different women. I made it look like concerned community members were doing their own investigation, but every piece of information was carefully curated to paint the most damaging picture possible. The campaign went viral within hours. Local news stations picked up the story, running segments about predatory fitness trainers and protecting yourself from romance scams. Andre Voss became the poster child for everything wrong with the modern dating scene. And through it all, Melissa's name never appeared anywhere. She was just another victim of a serial manipulator, someone who'd narrowly escaped being publicly humiliated thanks to Patricia's early intervention. She should have been grateful. Instead, she was furious. "This is all your fault," she hissed at me Friday night, after the kids had gone to bed, and she'd finally worked up the courage to confront me directly. "What's my fault?" "Don't play dumb, Greg. I know you did this. The timing, the social media campaign, the way Andre's life just happened to fall apart right after he talked to you. This has your fingerprints all over it." I looked up from my book, a thriller about a man who discovers his wife's affair and plots elaborate revenge, and met her gaze calmly. "I have no idea what you're talking about." "Bullshit. You found out about Andre and you destroyed him." "Found out what about Andre?" She opened her mouth to answer, then realized the trap I'd laid for her. To accuse me of sabotaging her affair, she'd have to admit there was an affair to sabotage. "I know what you did," she said finally. "What I did was protect our family from a predator who targets married women," I replied, setting down my book and giving her my full attention. "If you're angry about that, maybe you should ask yourself why." She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see her trying to figure out how much I knew and how much I could prove. The calculation in her eyes reminded me of why I'd fallen in love with her intelligence, and why that same intelligence was now being used against me. "We need to talk," she said finally. "We're talking now. Really talk. About us. About what happens next." I nodded, though we both knew that conversation was going to be less of a discussion and more of a negotiation. She wanted to know what I knew and what I planned to do with the information. I wanted to know how far she was willing to go to protect the life we'd built together. "Tomorrow," I said, "after the kids' soccer games. We'll talk about everything." She agreed, but I could see in her eyes that she was already planning her next move. Melissa had always been a strategic thinker, and she wasn't going to go down without a fight, which was fine with me. I'd been planning this war for weeks, and I was just getting started.